Alrighty, guys. So today is going to be a little bit different video. We're just going to kind of go through what kind of like my system looks like when it comes to onboarding, communication, feedback, just like what working with me would look like. So first things first, someone's got to reach out, right? So people usually reach out. I'd say on Instagram that's most common. Maybe email, messages, just like knowing a person, whatever it is. But whenever someone does reach out, we'll talk, and then I'll eventually send them a Google form, which is what you see here. And this Google form is a very important step because it is data collection for me to see how much I can learn about you as a person, but also as a lifter, so that we can get some background information. So I like to ask just general questions. Have you done a meet? Then some more psychological questions. So goal setting, expectations. What type of person you are. Blah blah blah. Technique stuff. What's like your stance with? Describe how your training's been in detail, and then just like how many days can you work out, uh, machine equipment access, all that stuff. So this form is a necessary step for me because, like I said, data collection. It also kind of shows me how committed somebody is, and if somebody fills out a form like not well at all, that might be reflective of how they might be as an athlete to me too, and how they might follow instructions, and things of that nature. So it's really important that for whatever coach that you like inquire with, that you put some time into the form, because it actually shows that you care, right? So that's just kind of like a sidebar there. But after the form, I go through it and I see if we'll be a good fit. So I'll reach out via email typically, and once I reach out via email, then we will set up a call. And I really like the call because, you know, even though this is online coaching, I like to talk to the person I'm going to be coaching, right? Because it's a relationship. It's just like if I were to like be at a personal training gym and then someone came up to me, I would talk to them in person. So I like to see people face to face. Kind of reveals a lot of like body language around certain topics if we bring things up. And just good to connect with someone like that, honestly. And on the call, talk more about just like who who they are as a person, really. Just learn about their life, their life constraints, like what things in our day to day are going to limit what we can do in training. It's like they work 6 days a week, or they have a bunch of these physical engaging hobbies, things like that. This is how their sleep is on average, and then I kind of go into like my service as well after that. So this would be a good time to kind of break that down. So for me, my service, it's pretty standard to most powerlifting coaches. I got it kind of pulled up right here. So individualized programming adjusted every 3 to 6 weeks. So that's what a block would be in essence. Average is probably 4 weeks, I'd say. Daily check-ins via WhatsApp. So with the daily check-ins, I like to receive training that you've done via video, and then like a little blurb about that, and I have like specifications for what I want in that. On the same day that you train, unless there's some existential circumstance or something like that. Um, so daily check-ins via WhatsApp, daily communication, and then I have a guaranteed 24-hour response time. So if you message me at 9 a.m., I will get back to you at least before 9 a.m. the next day. It almost never actually takes that long though, but I like to just put that out there in case something happened. Technique and programming analysis. So when I watch you lift on video, because I have you record a video, I'm going to give you some feedback on that if we need to adjust anything, or just encouragement, like, oh no, we're doing good, let's keep going. For programming analysis, that one too, that kind of is like if somebody came to me with previous programming, then I'll look at that and see, like, take what we want out of that, leave back what we don't want, to make a new program. The other thing with the programming analysis, just skipping a couple over, is the block overview videos. So when I make a new program for somebody, I like to make a video just like this, kind of going over their program, going over. I like to kind of start with the summary of how the last block went, if that happened, and then the goals for the upcoming block, and then the changes to the upcoming block. So that way we can kind of recap and then look forward. And I really like making these videos because although it kind of seems like it could be homework in some cases, which I could see, I think it's good because it helps the athlete see what I'm thinking about these changes, why we're making them, but also like how I want you to think of doing this weight on this week. It's like week one, we don't need to treat that like a week four. Like this doesn't need to be like crazy heavy because this week is just to like get us into the door and recover. Whereas if the videos weren't there, it might be easy to kind of miss those kind of general things about how each week should be. So I really like the block overview videos just to add extra context to the actual programming and what I'm thinking and how I want it to be executed. That's a good way to phrase it. How I want the program to actually be executed. That's what the block overview videos are for. Try to keep them between like 5 to 15 minutes. Really depends on how many changes we're making. Also, if it's like a new macro cycle, so like a collection of blocks with like a brand new goal, that one might take a little bit longer. But then some blocks, it's like a couple minutes and we're done. So that's the videos. I also upload those to a private YouTube playlist, so no one else sees it but you, and your videos just go right up there. Along with this, there's a private team Instagram page. So on there, I just post things I want everybody on the team to know. Maybe it's something I notice with every athlete. It's like, all right, let's make a post about that. Everyone could benefit from this. Mainly, though, it's going to be used for communication updates, which I also use WhatsApp for, which I'll get to. But just like, hey, like I'm going to be at a meet this weekend. Communication responses might be delayed. Just something like that on a story or something. As I alluded to, WhatsApp. So I use WhatsApp for daily communication. I find it should just be a good separate app that isn't involved in my personal life. So for me, it just helps kind of create that boundary. Like this is for coaching, and I think for athletes, a lot of athletes don't really use it for too much, anyways, depending on what type of phone you have and things like that. But yeah, I like using WhatsApp for that. And then there's also a team group chat, which is for updates, or maybe I'll put a poll in there and see what people think about certain things. So I like using WhatsApp for pretty much all communication, and then Instagram is like a secondary source as well. Other thing included in the service is meet day handling. So pretty much if you're within 4 hours of Massachusetts, I'm probably going to be at that meet. The furthest I've traveled so far to handle for other people was regionals in 2025, which was in New York. So that was about a 3 hour drive for me. But yeah, said 3 to 4 hours. That's about where I'd probably cut it off. So pretty much anywhere in New England is where that is for me. So yeah, meet day handling. I really like to be there with my athletes to see the plan that we set through. I think it's important that I can show up as long as it's I'm not flying across the country for a local meet. But more often than not, though, I will be there, especially if it's in my Massachusetts area. So that is meet day handling. And then, of course, too, if it's like a national level meet, let's say, then yeah, I'd probably be flying out to that because that's a little bit of a different story. Last couple things, Google Drive folder. So this one is kind of more for me, but I do share it with the athletes, just like general info, like the program, place to find the forms, contract signed, just like general stuff like that. But it's there for organization purposes. And then general macronutrient guidance. So I don't call this like a nutrition service. That's not a part of it at all because that goes really in depth. But I just like to give some general advice, like calories in, calories out, protein, carbs, fats, like how to kind of make your macros for that. Just very basic advice if somebody doesn't have any grasp on it at all. But again, I don't do nutrition coaching, not fully in depth. Know some really good ones though, so if anyone needs one, comment on the video or something like that. But yeah, so that is the coaching service that I would break down in the email, pretty much. Um, once we, or in the video rather, once we get through the call with this new athlete, the next thing we'll do is I will start making their program. So I might be asking them questions in between, just like, hey, like when you did this thing in your program, like, did you notice anything positive? What did you notice here? Hey, can I get some videos from this angle if you have any? Just like extra stuff to kind of feed me info and data to make the best program that I can for them. Once I make their program, then I'm going to make a second video. Now the second video is where we're going to go over the programming, how to use the spreadsheet, which is basically what I'm going to kind of show here a little bit. And then also, it depends on how much we need to go over. Technique will be included in this, or it'll be a separate technique video. If there's anything right off the bat we want to clean up technically, that'll also be a part of it. So yeah, that's what that video is for. So I guess I can kind of get into like what the spreadsheet for me looks like and all that. Okay, so this is what the spreadsheet looks like for me. It's been a lot of changes over the years, but starting at the home page here. So I have a home page for everybody where there's just some general communication to-dos. So like what I'm looking for out of communication, which that's another thing we'll get a little bit deeper into in a minute. But communication to-dos. So what should I record, what angles, all that stuff. My general office hours. So I'm pretty much available for communication like at any time of the day outside of or inside of 9 p.m. Between 8 and 9 p.m. that's when I kind of cut it off so I can go to bed and wake up the next morning. Weekends cut it off a little bit earlier, mainly Saturday. But communication hours, if there's any days off I need to take, that'll be up here. Athlete data stuff up here. And then I have some athlete data here. So when's the next meet? I have that up there. Weight class, best dots, starting 1 rep max, current, and then competition progress down here. And then over here I have rep PRs. So like what's their best out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then if we do anything paused, just to kind of track over time how we're doing. And I like to provide this on the athlete sheet so that they can see as well. And then to the left, this is the macro planner. So the macro cycle is just kind of like the general collection of like 3 to 4 blocks where there's some sort of culminating endpoint. That's the macro cycle. So think of like a meet prep, like a 12-week meet prep. That would be probably considered a macro cycle. So that's where I plan that out here if we have the ability to plan that out. If we are starting with someone brand new with 0 training history or we don't have any meet in sight, I might not make this yet because I don't really have any data to make this off of. But with this person in particular, her training's pretty consistent, so I can pretty much predict what she's going to be able to hit block to block heading into this next meet, and it's been pretty much on the money so far. So this is like a long-term planner. And then the microcycle, so that's kind of like the split throughout the week. I put that on here as well. That's also on the program. The other thing we got here is athlete data. So the athlete doesn't need to look at this, but again, if they want, this is just how I track 1 rep max progression over time, and then I plot it out on a chart over here so that we can see, is this thing trending up, down, staying the same. Just extra data to see there. And then getting to the actual sheet itself. So again, microcycle I like to throw up here too, just for quick reference, the athlete can see it. We got block notes, lifter information. Anytime there is a video overview, I put it here. Link to their YouTube playlist is here. Any new exercises I make, the videos will be in this section here. Training maxes, that's just like a number that I use to make other numbers, so that's not really for use. And then getting to the program itself. So top portion, we got week, day, lift. This is like coach's data here. Warm-ups go in the middle, so if I needed anyone to do any sort of warming up exercises, whether it's for like movement or something, put those in there with some instructions. Daily data. So for me, I like to highlight everything in red that I want the athlete to fill out. So daily data is one of them. It's kind of like an optional one, but like cool if you could fill it out. So just like how's your stress, sleep, recovery, all those things. So this is what it would look like if it wasn't filled out. So it's clear, like, all right, if it's red, I filled this out today. Pretty straightforward. So what do I ask to track, you might ask? So daily data is one of them. Other things I like people to track are the weight lifted, absolutely mandatory. We can't see if we're getting stronger. We don't know how much we're lifting. I also like to track the last set RPE. Now, when it comes to competition movements, I may ask for the RPE of all the sets if I'm curious. But for accessories, I really just need to know, like, all right, is your last set like actually hard or not? Hence, last set RPE. So that's in there. And then sometimes I'll have people track how many reps they perform for a set. So this machine chest press, for example, it's a drop set to RPE 10. So write in how many reps that you did for that. So yeah, that's pretty much the sheet. I just ask for 3 different things to be filled in. And honestly, it really doesn't take too long to fill these things in. Other things here, so we got the exercise, sets, reps, RPE, that stuff. Estimated range, so that's like the weight projection I might give you based on any data that we have. Sometimes there is one, sometimes there isn't one. I just kind of like it to guide lifters. Weight in kilos, so if this person's lifting on pounds and we need to know this weight in kilos, I put it here. Or if they're lifting on kilos, then I'll put it in pounds to convert it. And then comments. So this is like any sort of instructions that I have for the athlete. The athlete can also put something in here too, just kind of like a mini diary for themselves. And then I have a column to indicate what sets I want recorded. So I just write record. I may write record one set or record from the side. So this is how the athlete knows what I would like recorded. This little section down here, post-session feedback, this is optional for on the sheet. With feedback, how I like receiving it, I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So when you train, you send your videos, and actually I'm just going to pull up a sheet that kind of goes over this real quick. All right, so that document I've been referencing here. So I like to have a athlete handbook is what I call it. I'm pretty sure many coaches have something similar to this, but basically this is just like boundaries between the coach and the athlete, just like any relationship. So boundaries I've set, not communicating outside of WhatsApp for training, not expecting responses at like 3 in the morning, just basic things like that. And then acknowledging I can't treat things like outside my scope of practice. So boundaries, and then I go over expectations that I have of the athlete, and then the expectations that the athlete can have from me. So with athlete expectations, if maybe you're curious what it's like to be an athlete in this system here, spreadsheet. So fill it out every single session, quite simply. If it's in red, fill it out. Now the reason why I and other coaches have athletes fill out their spreadsheets, not to torture them, it's because we need some sort of objective data to see if things are getting better, if things are getting worse, staying the same. It makes it very hard and unclear what's going on when things are missing. So even if the weight is going up each week, let's say, but the RPE is never put in, that doesn't necessarily mean we're making progress, because we can add weight and then the RPE gets harder, or maybe we just keep the weight the same and then the RPE gets harder. Like, that's good data to know so that we can see the trends over time. So that's why it's important. Again, if your coach asks you to fill out your sheet, because it helps them make better training decisions for you. And then for me, anything that's highlighted in red, fill it out. Comment section, optional. So for videos, I personally like to just write what videos I want to see, but generally speaking, at least 2 sets per barbell movement. So like if you have a top set and a back down set, at least one of those, because then we can kind of see the difference between quality of movement. Let's say if it's breaking down a ton between your top set and your back down set. Bar speed too, make sure that you're trying on your back down sets if they're supposed to be easy, basic things like that. Sometimes I might have you record accessories as well, just to make sure we're pushing them hard. And I put in here anything else that causes pain, discomfort, or you're unsure of. For angles, I like to see pretty much side and front angles for all lifts. That's like the pretty basic one. Um, and then bench press, usually from behind and from the side, I'd say. Just helps kind of see how are we controlling the bar down to our chest, how are we staying over the middle of our foot if we're doing that, and getting onto our toes. And then like the front and back angles really show us side to side. Like, is there any asymmetries going on there that could be causing a potential problem? Um, and then maybe that leads to some other programming change. So angles are just super important. Vary them. Also, I would encourage you, if you record your own training for someone else, don't record it from the floor. Um, there's very little that can be obtained from a floor angle unless it's like super far away, let's say. Ideally, I'd recommend like hip height is a good angle. Hip height allows you to see, what's going on at the hips a little bit better, what's going on at the chest, good. But also, if you're a competitive powerlifter, um, you get to see from the ref's point of view, like what are they seeing from this angle. So another added benefit to that one. So yeah, record your lifts from different angles pretty much. And then the daily check-in stuff. So for daily check-ins, I personally like to have them sent post-workout so that emotions from the training session can kind of come down. Let's say we had a bad session, like bad session in the athlete's eyes. You might not receive or want to send the most objective feedback, especially if this is something that we care about, which I understood. So in in respect to the coach, so that they don't have to muddy like super emotional walls of text along with trying to pick out like what was like an important data point here. Just I like to ask to be sent post workout when all that stuff's calmed down, and then we're a little bit more objective, and then we can say like how did the workout go, pretty much. Now with that, I like specific questions to be answered. So, did you feel strong? Did you feel weak? Did you feel fresh or fatigued? How did your technique feel? Was it good? Was it not good? And then anything going on outside the gym. I also have additional feedback questions. So this is like a separate sheet. But this is just like to kind of get the gears going. If somebody's just completely stumped and they don't know what to say. So this is just like a list of a bunch of different questions somebody could ask that are kind of like offshoots of those questions. So, for example, how'd the bar feel in your hands or on your back? For like, did you feel strong or not? Did you feel strong but the bar felt heavy? Did you feel strong but the bar felt light? Um, let's see, how'd you feel after the session? Like, these are just extra run-of-the-mill questions to get more out of the lifter. I personally make my training decisions for this athlete based off of trends that we see with the objective data. So like the weights that are filled out, the RPEs, maybe the estimated 1 rep max I receive from that. So, and the top set progression. So like that's the objective data. And then the subjective experience of the athlete. Combine those two, make a decision. Because numbers are one thing, but how the person feels is another thing about how this thing is actually going. So I think it's very important, at least for my system, how I do things, to collect how is the athlete actually feeling about training. How's it going? How's the bar feeling on their back? All these things. Not to say it has to always be perfect, but it's just good for me to know. Because then that might clue me into potential training changes. With the feedback, how I like to be sent, block number, week number, day number, so block 1, week 1, day 1, and then a description of what was sent, so sets, reps, weight, RPE. So primary squat, 1 set of 2, 345 pounds, RPE 8.5. That was the first set that they recorded. And then just a little blurb about, how the day went. That's how I expect these daily check-ins to be done. So that's what I expect out of my athletes. What the athletes can expect out of me is, I have their spreadsheet done before the first training day of the week. Attempt sheets for competition are made usually within 1 to 2 weeks out once we have those final heavy lifts hit. that I'll respond within 24 hours. Basically, just like I will do what I said I was going to do. That's what you can expect out of me. Um, and then adhering to my office hours, all those things. Also, block overview videos. So you'll receive a video with a new block. Meet day handling if it's a local competition. I also provide monthly optional calls for some lifters. Now, I personally love these calls because they're a great way to just reconnect with this person. As I said at the beginning of the video, like this is a human interaction. Like it's just good to like actually talk to somebody face to face. And I find a lot of times these monthly calls can be very helpful if we are stuck in training and we're trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And then, it's just like, all right, let's hop on a call. And then we talk it through after like an hour. Almost always do we walk away with something. Because sometimes, like, we can just reveal things better just talking about it versus trying to like text it or something like that. So I do make them optional though because they're not always necessary, especially if we're communicating daily. But I do really like those, so that's an option as well. And then yeah, that's basically it. So that's like the handbook communication expectations side of things. I went over the spreadsheet and what that looks like, and then I also went through the onboarding process and what that looks like. So that's pretty much a sneak peek into what working with me would look like, if anyone was ever interested. Um, as far as making changes goes, like block to block, I typically like to let the blocks kind of ride out. So if it's a 4 week block, I kind of like to let it just take its course and then make a change after that. But every now and then, we'll make changes that are a little bit more reactive if they're needed. So, like in the actual moment itself. The other thing, too, that I really value is what the athlete has to say. So, what the lifter in front of me has to say. Because, like I said, the numbers can tell you one thing, but the lifter's subjective experience is what matters the most. Because at the end of the day, this is a service for somebody that wants to get better at lifting weights because this matters to them. So I take what you, if you're an athlete, have to say pretty seriously, and I want to make sure that we're on the same page here. My role is to help you kind of navigate this stuff, not to be like a super like hardcore coach or anything like that. It's just to navigate you based on what I think will help, and I like to hear feedback from my athletes of their possible ideas too, because no one knows your lifter better than, or no one knows yourself better than yourself as far as lifting goes. So, yeah, that's just another kind of closing thought of how I like to view the coach client relationship there. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that like different type of video. If any of you are interested in working with me, because I am taking on athletes right now, you can fill out the Google form. I did link it in this video. I should have, hopefully. If not, you can always shoot me a message on Instagram at jmcherico1, just like a DM saying, something like that. And right now, I'm doing 3 months of free coaching and then $50 a month after the free period's over, just to kind of see if anyone wants to get a feel for what this experience is like. They get 3 months to kind of feel that out. That's, I think, enough time to kind of decide if you want to do something or not. And then, yeah, so that's available. So if anyone's interested in that, like I said, shoot me a message, DM. You can even comment on the video or something, or yeah, fill out the form that is in the bio. But thank you guys for watching. If any of you stuck around, and until next time.